I've come to this floor many, many, many times to highlight what I believe are the short-sighted anti-energy decisions that we've seen come from this administration. Whether we're talking about the Keystone XL pipeline and more than 7 years of delay and the eventual rejection of that infrastructure, or whether it's the burdensome rules that we see coming out of the EPA that raise the energy costs, or whether it's the actions from the Department of the Interior that seek to halt resource development in federal areas, this administration has rarely ever worked with us to promote responsible energy, mineral, and timber development. In Alaska, this ever-shifting federal regulatory environment played a very key role in the recent decision by Shell to abandon 7 years of work and $7 billion of investment in the offshore Arctic. And it was just this week we received word that another company, looking again at low oil prices, but seeing the same deteriorating regulatory environment, decided to follow suit, and they are seeking to return their leases in the offshore. The Obama administration has also canceled offshore lease sales in the state. It's hamstrung projects in our National Petroleum Reserve, which we absolutely need if we're ever going to be able to refill our Trans-Alaska oil pipeline. It's placed half of the reserve within the National Petroleum Reserve off limits, even though it was specifically designated for development. And then, of course, we all know the situation in ANWR. This administration is trying to lock away more than 10 billion barrels of oil in the non-wilderness portion of ANWR, which could be safely produced with development of just 0.01% of its surface area. And the list, Mr. President, just goes on. And I told you that I was going to move to more promising and more uplifting subjects than Frankenfish and what the administration has done to suppress our ability to access our energy resources. But I do want to move to another area, because I think that this is an area and a focus that I'd like to believe we can find support, not only working with the administration, but working with colleagues and really building some partnerships on both the public and the private side. And this is the area of innovation, energy innovation, where I believe there is greater hope for working together with this administration to make a real difference for our nation. Innovation holds tremendous promise, not just for us as policymakers, but also in terms of long-lasting benefits that it can deliver for not only the United States, but really around the world. And innovation doesn't require more complex and costly regulations. It doesn't need to choose winners or losers in the energy sector. Instead, innovation offers a chance at common ground that will deliver results and help power our nation for decades to come. No matter your motivation for seeking cleaner and more affordable energy, we should all be able to agree that without innovation, without kind of pushing every day for that greater technology, our energy future and our economic prosperity are hardly secure. But I think the good news for us here in this country is that the United States is the global leader in innovation. And we hear that this is a race and that America is falling behind, but I would contend that our strengths are still unmatched. Our innovations, our ideas and our inventions, our products and our processes have changed history and in turn really changed the world. The United States has led the way in research and development that has changed our lives and lives across the world for the better. Among federal agencies, the Department of Energy in particular has played an important role in these efforts, and I think that they can make even greater contributions, especially when it comes to vital basic research. The DOE is hardly perfect. Many of us would make changes to the scope of its mission and improve its priorities if we were given a chance. But given that, the department has also sparked innovation that has helped transform the global energy landscape. The most successful innovations give us more energy, reduce the amount of energy that we use, as well as lowering the costs that we pay for energy. And I think as we move forward, we keep those goals in focus, and we do improve. Increasing access to energy, making it more affordable, and improving its environmental performance should be key factors that drive our innovation policy. Those of us on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee are always talking about innovation and how best to promote it through reasonable federal policies, because we understand how critical it is to our nation's future. And that's why energy and the innovation part of energy is a key part of our broad bipartisan energy bill that we reported through the Energy Committee by a vote of 18-4 back in July. The bill also includes legislation that is authored by Senator Alexander to review some of the energy-related portions of the America's Competes Act. We've agreed to authorize a 4% increase in funding for basic energy research each year, which I think puts us on a responsible path to double our nation's commitment to it. It's basic research that is at the heart of the mission of our system of national labs and also of many of our research universities. The men and women in the research sector are pushing to make that fundamental discovery, to conduct the basic research that could find the next big thing for energy. And this type of research should be a priority for us, and the Department of Energy should be committed to helping new discoveries transition to market viability. Within this bipartisan bill, we also reauthorized the ARPA-E program, which solicits ideas that are too early for private sector investment, but with bridge funding have the opportunity to transform the energy sector. ARPA-E is a true hands-on program that ensures awardees meet milestones towards the goal of market viability. Now, ARPA-E hasn't been around for that long, but I think it has been promoting some good ideas, some strong ideas, and producing some good results. Our bill also supports innovation in a number of other areas, specifically energy efficiency, energy storage, and in distribution. And then for vehicles, it provides for hybrid microgrid systems and for recycling, for geothermal power, for marine hydrokinetic, and for many other developing technologies. Now, recently, we've also seen more discussion that is brought to us by private individuals and companies that plan to invest in energy technologies with the potential to transform the way that energy is produced and delivered and consumed. And I think this, too, will help drive energy innovation in this country. Back in July, Bill Gates announced his personal commitment to invest $1 billion over 5 years to advance new energy technologies. And he made that commitment based on his recognition that current available energy options will not allow the world to achieve its much discussed climate goals in a way that also works to reduce the costs for the people using the energy. It's one thing to be working toward climate goals, but in doing so, if all that we do is increase the cost to the consumer, that doesn't help us either. His focus is as much on clean air and clean water as it is on lifting people around the world out of poverty. I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Gates several weeks ago and look forward to seeing what comes out of his commitment. I'm also following the possibilities that are coming out of venture capital and other private investments. I think these efforts augment the federal research and the development dollars, and in many cases are ensuring that promising technologies are not just set up on some shelf somewhere, but really pursued to a successful and a productive result. Now, you've heard me say on the floor many times, but we in the state of Alaska are at a time and a place where We're desperate to see energy innovation and see that translate in our state. Energy prices in many parts of Alaska are much, much higher than the prices paid by our friends in the lower 48. In some communities in Alaska, you're looking at 40 to 50 cents a kilowatt hour for your electricity. Certain parts of the state, over half of a family's budget goes just towards energy to keep warm or keep the lights on. Can you imagine what that means when over half of your family's budget, half of your income, is just keeping your lights on and keeping yourself warm? It doesn't leave a lot for anything else, for educating your kids, for feeding them, for health care. So it is a huge issue for us. And there's so many things that contribute to the high cost. It's big geography. It's lack of a comprehensive and interconnected energy delivery system. We have tremendous energy potential in the state of Alaska, and unfortunately, many of our communities are just not powered by it. We have natural gas in abundance, and yet our second largest community in Alaska doesn't have access to that natural gas. We're trying to get it there, but that's our current reality. Many communities in rural Alaska still rely on diesel to generate their power, and delivering the diesel, whether you're moving it upriver by barge or flying it in by plane, it's hugely expensive. It's not sustainable. So innovation is essential to moving these rural communities and even these not so rural communities off of diesel and onto more sustainable, locally generated and less expensive energy systems. And what we're doing in Alaska is bringing some very innovative technologies to communities around the state through a variety of state-run programs that are largely financed by the revenues that are derived from our oil production. So think about that. We're a state that derives most of our revenues, most of our income from oil. And so we're taking a non-renewable energy source, taking the revenues from that and helping to facilitate our renewable resources, our resources that will be there for well into the future. But you have to be able to finance these programs, and we're doing so much of it from our oil production. Responsible development of Alaska's resources has enabled our state to take the necessary steps to improve energy delivery in our remote communities. And this is, in many ways, almost like a virtuous cycle where current energy production helps fund the next generation of energy production, and where we harness today's energy to significantly improve the lives of our people. What we're seeing in the state, we've got several communities that are working with various state agencies to integrate wind and solar and geothermal into their electricity delivery system in an effort to displace the power that's normally generated from expensive diesel. It's the microgrids that we're seeing that are really coming to be found as the solution. We are home to more microgrids in the state of Alaska than any other state out there, and that's largely because they're the only option for us. They're the only option for many of our communities that lie far outside any regional transmission grids. We've got transmission grids in what we call the rail belt area, but it's difficult when you have, again, large geography, small population numbers. So you're going to have to figure out how you can literally power one village at a time, or maybe you get lucky and you're able to cluster a few. But knowing what, for instance, the island of Kodiak has done with being able to power a major seafood producing port through wind combined with their hydro resources and also utilizing battery. That area in Kodiak is almost 100% powered by renewable resource. Almost 100%. And this, again, is one of the major seafood producing ports, not only in the state, but in the country. And so the energy that is needed for those processors is coming to us by renewable energy sources, almost 100%. The irony, and we were able to talk about this briefly in the Energy Committee this morning, is in order to meet increased demand in the Kodiak, they're going to need to expand one of their hydro facilities, Terror Lake, and so they have asked for assistance with that. If they can't get the expansion, which some are objecting to because they don't want to see an expansion of that dam, what happens? You go back to diesel. You go back to diesel. That's not the answer here. So what we have been doing with pioneering of our microgrids is again something that I think provides the state and the federal government with ample opportunities to conduct research, develop solutions to better integrate renewable technologies into these microgrids. And in order for renewable technologies to be effective in the state, innovative research and development is required, and the result of these efforts, I think, has made a dramatic difference in many communities. Bringing renewables online in remote communities, again, like Kodiak, has displaced hundreds of thousands of gallons of diesel fuel, not only saving the people who live there hundreds of thousands of dollars, but resulting in a cleaner environment overall. Mr. President, I do think that it's exciting to think about what a difference future innovations in renewable technologies and energy storage could mean for communities, not only in a place like Alaska, but really around our country and around the world, whether it's through federal research and development, whether it's through our state programs that are assisting our private capital. Promoting innovation is a clear path to lower energy costs and a future with cleaner water and cleaner air. We might not agree on every energy policy that comes to this chamber, but I would hope that we can all agree that energy innovation is one key to assuring our economic growth, our national security, as well as our international competitiveness. And I look forward to working with colleagues in all of these areas. With that, Mr. President, I see that my friend and colleague from Kansas, a gentleman who's always filled with thanksgiving, and has shared that with many of us today, is here on the floor, and so I will yield at this time.